Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Chicago White Sox March to October, and it's that time. It's time for the dreaded regular season recap episode. I know that's a great way to sell it at the start of a video, but the reason I say dreaded is because I always get carried away. I get way too into looking at stats. These videos go longer than they need to, and generally they get way less views than normal. But I like them. I really like them. I really enjoy looking through everybody's stats. Seeing what everyone's season was like, kind of putting a cap on the regular season and everything. I will touch on it here at the start, but I'm going to save most of what I have to say about this until the next episode when everybody who doesn't watch the stat recap comes back. But we have a few roster issues that the CPU auto-handled after the end of the regular season. So on the offensive side, they kept Yermin on the major league team, and Adam Engel is nowhere to be found. So that's not a move that I would have personally done. And then on the pitching side, they well, if you remember at the end of last episode, I ordered the playoff rotation here how I wanted to based on who I had confidence with, but it auto-ordered the rotation based on overalls. I already flip-flopped Lynn and Kopech because I don't really want Kopech getting a start. But I'll just leave it how it is now because I don't want to mess anything up and have weird things happen in the game. But the other big thing that you may have noticed is there was some more call-ups and send-downs that were handled without my input. Luzardo stayed on the major league team in place of Ronaldo Lopez, which, you know, that's fine. They're both really good long relievers, and there's an argument to be made that Luzardo is better at long relief than Ronaldo was this year. But the bad one is Joe Kelly's back for Christian Javier. Why would that happen? Like, where's the logic in that? Joe Kelly is 3 overall lower than Christian Javier. So, like I said, I will talk about it more in the next episode when everybody who doesn't watch the stat recap is back. But I just wanted to point that out at the start because I'm a little frustrated by it. But I do think we should be able to see everybody's stats now that we can go to this depth chart screen. I think we should be able to see. I see Christian Javier there. I don't see Ronaldo, so we won't be able to recap his stats, which that kind of sucks because I would have liked to look at him. Well, and then also Engel isn't going to be able to be seen. So it kind of has an impact on what we were planning on doing today. But I guess it's not that big of a deal. So let's get into what happened in the regular season here and start by talking about the standings. And as we all know, I handily won the AL Central here. 114-48, just 2 wins shy of tying the all-time single season record. And I mean, if we would have had one more key moment to play, there was a long sim without any momentum, and you can see we went 6-4 in our last 10. So if we had one more key moment, maybe got a little bit more momentum, picked up those 2 wins, we could have had it. But, you know, that's really kind of meaningless. We won the division. That's all that matters. We're in the playoffs. All that matters is we keep winning. So now over to the East, and the Blue Jays were another 100-game winner. Still 13 games behind us, which is crazy to think about, but they're the second-ranked team. They might have ended up with the second-best record. I'm not sure. The Rays also got 95 wins. They went into the wild card, but then the rest of the division, the Red Sox, the Yankees, they fell off this season. Couldn't even have a winning record. So that AL East is getting a little bit less competitive here as we go along. It'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward into next season. Over to the West, you got the Mariners. Look at them. They're breaking their losing streak, I guess, of not appearing in the playoffs by finally winning the West. 96-66, got it done. No Astros this year, so we can't get our revenge for getting bounced. I guess technically the last 2 years, one in real life and then one in the last season of the March to October. The Angels had a winning record, but it wasn't good enough to get them into the playoff. And then you had 200-game losers in the division. Over to the National League, and 90 wins got the job done to win a division. That's actually kind of crazy because the worst division winner in the AL had 96 wins. That's a big difference there, 6 games. But the Braves took that division. They're actually the 4th ranked team on those rankings up top, so they're not a bad team. They just must have had a down year. I mean, not even a down year. They're a 90-win team. They're division winner. I don't know why you'd call that a down year. But then the Mets make the wild card. Marlins finish in front of the Phillies. And they're actually a good team. I mean, they're 9th in team rankings. They actually underperformed then, I guess. 10 teams make the playoffs. They're ranked 9 and don't make it in. Over to the NL Central, and the Brewers also only had 90 wins to win the division. The Cubs, though, they're back somewhat in contention. 2nd place in the division, 5 games back. Maybe they're already turning things around. I'll be interested to see what they do next year, especially if this is a weaker division. Cardinals are the 6th ranked team, though, so they also should have made it in. Underperformed. And you got the Reds and the Pirates. They didn't manage to lose 100 games though, so they're improving. Then finally the West, and 92 games, so not a single division winner in the National League would have even been within 4 games of winning any division in the American League. 92-70 gets the job done in the West. 3rd ranked Dodgers, so they're still a powerhouse. The Giants made it to the wild card. Padres with a winning record, a pretty good record. Rockies break even, they go 500. And then the D-backs, not even that far below 500. So this is an interesting division. It'll be interesting to see if the Rockies and the D-backs start making some moves in this division, because you gotta imagine the Giants are just gonna keep getting worse, right? Because they're still the veteran team. All right, now let's get on to the even more fun part, looking at our players' stats, and I'm going to start with the pitching this time. I feel like I usually start with the position players, but we're going to look at the pitching. And the pitching, I mean, I guess just specifically the starting pitching, kind of was an issue for a lot of the season. Like, it just wasn't as elite as I guess you would hope, but definitely changed as we went along. As we'll see with Giolito starting out here, he improved a lot. He's a 90 overall now. He's fulfilled that A potential. So we will have to re-sign him in the offseason. I definitely plan on doing that. And he turned in like an ace caliber season again after last year. It wasn't looking like he was going to get to the same kind of numbers he put up last year. I think for most of the season he was hovering around a 4 ERA, and then it started dropping, and then especially after, it was him that we had that chance at a no-hitter with, right? Now I don't even remember. But for some reason, he pitched way more innings this year than last year. He had 1 extra start, but racked up, what was that, like 16 more innings overall. Goes 18-5, only gives up 206 hits, only walks 59 batters, so the whip is under 1.1. The ERA at 3.05, 229 strikeouts. See, this is what's still unrealistic about this show in March to October, and I would assume franchise mode, is the pitching numbers they're not right. Like, I know there's no injuries in March to October, so that's a big reason why. But still, if a starter goes through an entire season in real life without getting injured, they're still not even going to sniff 242 innings. Most likely, they're not even going to sniff 200. But then especially someone like Giolito, if he did manage to pitch almost 250 innings in a season, he'd probably strike out like 350 dudes. So they'll have to adjust things moving forward, because it's like they're still running on the 2008 algorithm or whatever of how pitching gets simmed. And this is probably why we'll see later a lot of our bullpen arms not getting as many innings as you'd expect. But Giolito has a 5.5 wins above replacement by the end of the year, so that's a good pitching season, man. That's his best of his career. Then we move on to Severino, one of our off-season signings. He also improved a lot this year. It'll be interesting if next year, when he hits 30 years old, if he'll still improve enough to get up to that 90. But if this season was anything to go by, he improved a lot, so he could. And he finished with a really good year too. So he's a 20-game winner this season, 21-3 record. He throws 225 innings. He strikes out 234 batters. The ERA at 3.87. If I remember right, for like about the first half of the year, the ERA was closer to 3 than it was to 4. So he definitely, that dipped a little bit, but if you just compare him to last season, an improvement of like a full run, that's good. And we got him locked up for a long time still, so hopefully he just keeps improving like that. 20 quality starts out of 32, 5 complete games, 4 shutouts, and only 3 wild pitches. He had more complete game shutouts than wild pitches. And then a 4 wins above replacement even. On to Cease. And man, am I glad the kind of season he ended up turning in, because I was scared. He went through like the whole first half of the year with an ERA over 5, and I don't think he improved a single overall. I think he was stuck at an 82 for like the whole first half of the year, but something happened in the second half. If they gave him a second half Diamond Dynasty card, it would have to be a 99, because he got that ERA all the way down to 358. He improves a ton, as you see. He's up to an 86 now. 15-10 record. I would love to see what that record was like before he started pitching well, because, you know, who knows, after the second half he could have gone like 12-2 or something. I don't even know. But he strikes out 227 batters, which, man, we know Cease, we know his strikeout per 9 potential, what he shows in real life. If he pitched 221 innings, he'd be setting records. But what's good to see is he allowed fewer home runs, fewer walks, fewer earned runs in more innings pitched than last season. 23 quality starts, also 5 complete games, 4 shutouts, 3 hit batsmen. He ends up with a 4.7 wins above replacement. Then you got Lance Lynn, who he's, you know, he got hit with the regression, but that's fine because he was still a good pitcher. This is his last year on the team, so it's not like we have to worry about him regressing further. And yeah, I mean, you can't complain when these are the numbers he put up. He goes 18-8, throws 225 innings, doesn't even give up 200 hits, 218 strikeouts, 3.24 ERA. The whip was good. He wasn't, you know, quite as good of a pitcher as he was the season before, but we also really didn't need him to be. Adding someone like Severino, Cease, and Giolito both improving. He also has 23 quality starts with 5 complete games, 4 shutouts. And he finishes with a 4 wins above replacement. I think that's the same as Severino. And then finally we come to Kopech. He was the disappointment of the team, or of the rotation at least. But I don't know what to make of his numbers. I don't know what to make of his lack of improvement. I don't know if that's because maybe in the back end his potential rating is only an 85, so he wasn't going to get better anyway. But he was comfortably our worst starting pitcher, goes 9-10, the only one with a losing record. Couldn't quite get to 200 innings, gave up a lot of hits, struck out 206 batters, but this is the number that stands out. The 5.54 ERA. He just could not get it down. Cease ended up getting it down, Kopech couldn't. But here's what I don't know to make of it. Alright, because I already looked at his numbers. This caught me by surprise. If we scroll over, look at his wins above replacement. How do you have 3.1 wins above replacement when you have a 5.5 ERA? I mean, actually, I guess I do know the answer to that, because I think, I'm not, you know, a big stat nerd of all these advanced statistics, but I think I know what most of them mean, at least. And I think wins above replacement is more based on FIP than a lot of other things, and his FIP was still good. This is 2 seasons in a row now where his FIP is way lower than his actual ERA. So last year his final ERA was like 4.5. The FIP was a full run under that. This year his ERA is 5.5 and his FIP is 3.88. So again, I don't know everything that goes into that. I don't know all the calculations, but what I do know is this is supposed to be like the ERA estimate based on how good Kopech does himself. So after 2 seasons of underperforming based on the FIP, you'd think he would have to regress to the mean sometime soon, right? So at first I'm looking at him thinking like, man, is he just not a starter? Do we have to start pitching him out of the bullpen, be a long reliever? And maybe that still is the case. Maybe he's just going through 5 innings or so a start really strong and then falls apart, but the game just keeps leaving him in, maybe into the 7th or something. I don't know what the answer is, but I guess we just stick with him for another year and see what happens with him as a starter. See if he does regress to that mean based on the FIP. But now we go over to Luzardo. I would really like to see Lopez, because I'm pretty sure he had an ERA over 4, and his ERA didn't start going up until Luzardo left. Like, before Luzardo got automatically sent down, Lopez still had like a low to mid 2 ERA, and I don't know if it was because Luzardo left and then Lopez had to deal with the entire long relief workload. Maybe that just got to him. But Luzardo was really good in long relief. He had a 2.41 ERA, 44 strikeouts in 41 innings, and this is this is part of the reason why I don't know about Kopech, because Luzardo has basically the same stamina as Kopech, but obviously he's throwing way less innings per appearance, and in those innings he's dominant. So that would lead me to believe that's probably the issue with Kopech, is he maybe is dominant for his first 3 or 4, maybe starts getting shaky in the 5th, starts giving up his runs in the 6th, and then the game doesn't take him out until the 7th. I don't know. But what I do know is I would like to see what kind of season Luzardo would have put together if he had a full one in the bigs. What I didn't mention is he did not improve like I would have hoped. I think he started the year at a 74, so he only went up 1 overall. I was really hoping for him to be at least a 77 and hopefully higher by the end of this year, because I did want to move him into the rotation after losing Lynn, because we're not going to bring back Lynn. So I was hoping we could just slide Luzardo in. But for one, he didn't improve as much as I would have hoped. And for two, if Kopech's having his issues with his stamina rating, Luzardo would presumably have the same issues. So I'm starting to think we might have to look elsewhere in free agency for a starter. And then we could just keep Luzardo in the long relief role, because obviously he's fine there. Then on to Aaron Bummer, and it is a bummer, because he did give up a run. I thought the CPU just wouldn't use him and he would finish a season without giving up a run, but he just had to go and give up a home run late in the year. Not like it would have been super impressive anyway, because he only threw 14 innings. So I mean, 14 scoreless innings is good. But, if you say someone didn't give up a run in a year, you'd expect that they had thrown, 50 innings, and it's like, whoa, he didn't give up a run in 50 innings. But yeah, this is kind of what I was talking about when we were looking at Giolito and him throwing 240 innings and all of our pitchers throwing 200 innings. Because of that, that's probably why someone like Bummer doesn't get used as much, because there's only so many innings to go around. But he improved even more. He's up to an 84 now. He's just a really good lefty for us, and we have him for another season. It'll be interesting to see what kind of contract he gets after next season, if he has another low usage season, because he's had 2 in a row now. Because I mean, if he stays inexpensive, I'll just keep bringing him back. Then we move on to Johnny Lasagna, our trade pickup from the Yankees. I don't know how the numbers differentiate between us and the Yankees, but it seems like he didn't get used a ton since he got traded to us, but he had a good year. ERA under 2. I think all those saves probably came with the Yankees. Only 2 home runs allowed is good. And he's got an A potential, 28 years old. He might have another year to get even better. Graveman turned in a really good year. 32 years old, didn't regress. 46 innings on the mound. He has an ERA of 1.76. He basically threw the exact same number of innings as he did last year. And honestly, it's tough to see where the runs came from last year versus this year, because he gave up like the same amount of hits, the same amount of walks, struck out like the same number of batters, but for whatever reason, this year to last, he gave up way less runs. I guess it must just all come in those home runs, because he gave up 6 less homers. But yeah, really great year out of him. 1.2 wins above replacement for a reliever. That's pretty good. I guess I forgot to look at our other reliever wins above replacements. 0.4 for Johnny Lasagna. Bummer's only going to be at, 0.2 because he barely pitched. And then Luzardo, he is at 0.7. Then we move on to, Joe Kelly. I mean, what do I really have to say about him? I sent him down because of what I'm about to say. He regressed a ton. He barely pitched, and in the time he did pitch, he wasn't very impressive. He shouldn't even be on the team right now. We shouldn't even be talking about his stats. Probably going to be doing everything I can to not use him in any game unless we're up by like 7 or more. But yeah, we should be seeing Christian Javier here instead. Which, speaking of, let's just talk about him now, because we can see him still from the depth chart screen. He didn't improve in terms of his attributes, so 75 must be his potential, his cap here. It's not like he had a great season. He definitely did worse than last year. The ERA doubled. The whip was about the same. He was just giving up more runs. He did go negative in WAR, and the FIP was high, so you can't even say that he should have been much better, I guess. But I just enjoy pitching with him. I feel like whenever I've pitched with him, the few times I have over the last 2 seasons, I've been really good with him. So I would trust him to use him in the playoffs, but I don't trust Joe Kelly. So that's where the frustration comes in. Now on to Garrett Crochet. And man, I mean, just getting him back after not having him for last season was awesome. I wish he pitched more, because he pitched really well. Only the 1 home run allowed, only 9 walks, in 33 innings. 29 strikeouts. The ERA stayed under 2. The whip was good. Wins above replacement of .8. The original plan was to move on from Liam Hendriks and have Crochet be our new closer. But after I kind of decided a couple episodes ago, because Liam Hendriks was just so good, probably going to try and bring Liam back. So Crochet will probably, just stay in whatever role he was in this year. But then you go Taylor Rogers, another offseason signing for us. Paid him pretty big reliever money to come in and do what he did, and he did it well. He was pretty much the setup guy all year. 27 2/3 innings, got 19 holds, 3 saves. I'm kind of surprised he blew 4 saves because he only gave up 5 total runs. But yeah, he just kept the runs from scoring. I mean, he gave up plenty of base runners. The whip was 1.27, but he just didn't let most of them come around to score. 1.63 ERA as a setup guy. I mean, that's awesome. What more do you want from that? He didn't give up a homer either. And then Liam Hendriks, the closer. 34 years old. He hardly regressed. I think he went down 1 in his overall. But look at the season he had. This is why I want to try and bring him back for another year. He puts up 40 saves, only gives up 10 runs in 46 2/3 innings. The strikeout to walk ratio, man, 71 strikeouts, only 8 walks, ERA under 2, the whip under .8, 1.6 WAR as a closer, 13.5, above 13.5 strikeouts per 9. The FIP even lower than his already sub 2 ERA. I mean, you gotta bring him back. You have to. This is just probably one of the best closer seasons of all time. All right, onto the offense, onto the position players, and I can't control myself, man. I told myself going into this, all right, it's our second season, we can chill, not spend too much time on the stat recap, but this is probably going to go even longer than the last season. Mostly because the offense was very exciting this year, and it's exciting to talk about because it was so good. Trey Turner, another offseason signing, our biggest offseason signing, and in the end, he probably was our best. I was worried about him at the beginning of the year. He never was playing bad, but at the beginning of the year, his hitting was regressing like a lot, weirdly, and he was playing well, but he wasn't playing like crazy or anything. And look at how he ended the season. He got up to over 30 home runs. I think in our player lock with him, which was not that long ago, he was at like 14, 15-ish, and he just doubled that in like a quarter of the season while maintaining a batting average over 300, 370 on base, 554 slugging, OPS over 900. He walked a lot, stole a lot of bases. He was the leadoff hitter, and he drove in 126 runs. I genuinely don't think that's ever happened before. Like, I would bet a lot of money that no leadoff hitter has ever driven in that many runs. He led off every game he played in. At least he should have. That was his spot. 54 doubles is crazy to go along with the 30. I mean, he had a 30-30 season. Most seasons, this should be the MVP winner, but there were a couple other crazy seasons throughout the league, so he probably wouldn't be the MVP. But in isolation, this is an MVP caliber year. And he finishes with a 8.6 wins above replacement, not even close to any other season. By far his best year of his career. Then we move to Tim Anderson, and look at him, still improving as a B potential 29-year-old. Everything but the power, but even the power, he had a pretty typical power season. Not quite as many home runs as the year before, but everything else was probably just as good, if not better, than the year before. And he had the exact same number of at-bats, and he got more hits, 2 more doubles, fewer home runs and triples, drove in more runs, struck out a little bit more. Stolen base percentage was way better, average and on base better, slugging worse, but his wins above replacement comes in at a full win higher, which I don't really understand. I don't know if that's purely down to almost half the amount of errors he made the year before. I don't know if that affects it that much, but it could. So I mean, bottom line, I'm glad I brought him back, because that's not a bad year at all. It just, in the context of our entire team, it's just not one of the most impressive seasons we had. Because Luis Robert was also on our team. He goes up a lot in overall. He's a 95 now. He could be on his way to a 99. And he pretty much improved everywhere from the season before. A couple more doubles, an extra triple, an extra homer, a lot more runs driven in. Walked 1 extra time while striking out a couple less. Few less stolen bases. but the average is way higher, on base way higher, slugging way higher. The OPS got over 950, and he puts up a wins above replacement of 8.1. So not quite Trey Turner level, but he's right there. And I think back to his 2 clutch home runs against Aaron Loop early in the season. Those are some of the best moments of this season. Then we got Eloy. He improved in every aspect except base running aggressiveness, but he's just becoming one of the best hitters in the league. 48 homers this year. He almost got to that 50, but pretty much exactly what I was hoping would happen happened. I didn't end up playing him at DH the entire year after I made some changes against righties and had to get Sano in the lineup, but with him playing DH a lot of the time, it caught him at the plate in a lot more games, and he ended up, I mean, he probably had like over 100 more plate appearances than the season before. So that got him all these extra home runs, all these extra hits, extra runs driven in, doubled his walks basically. I mean, his slash line here, the triple slash, basically the same as last year, but I would say he definitely had a better year this year just because he played more. So all of the actual numbers, like home runs and hits and all that, he just had more of them. So then he finishes with a 4.8 wins above replacement. And then you got Sano. Maybe when you factor in the money we got him for, our best signing of the offseason. He improved a lot. I mean, plus 10 contact against righties. The numbers against lefties, I could have sworn earlier in the year he was like plus 6 in power and contact, so I don't know what happened to that. But I mean, dude, look at the year. Look at the year he had. 34 bombs, 80 walks, didn't even strike out 150 times. The average, Miguel Sano almost had a 300 batting average. The on base was almost at 400. OPS over 900. Wins above replacement of 4.2. I mean, his strikeout percentage, probably the lowest of his career, yeah. Besides last year, he didn't even have one under 30%, and then he improved by over 4% from last year. The walk rate went up. I mean, I was not expecting him to be nearly this good. I was only, expecting him to play just against lefties. I was expecting maybe a 240-ish average with a solid number of home runs, but dude came in and became an everyday player with a big impact every game. Now we come to Grandal, and we see he regressed a lot. Kind of a Lance Lynn situation where that's not a big deal because I don't plan on keeping him around any longer, so as long as he put up the numbers, I don't care about the regression, and he put up the numbers. One shy of 40 homers. His batting average almost got up over 300. On base of 380, OPS of 946. Really good behind the plate, and he has an 8.1 wins above replacement year. So like those back-to-back years of him at catcher, probably some of the better catcher seasons of all time, and I'm moving on from him. It kind of sucks, but I would imagine since he's still an 88, he's going to ask for a lot. And I just know the regression is just going to keep getting worse. So we'll just be content with what we have. Then you come to Vaughn. Look at his improvement. He's up to an 83 now. 99 power against lefties. He's not even a liability anymore against righties. His attributes are good enough. Plus 10 on the discipline. His fielding is getting better. He's got a bronze badge in right now in a secondary position, and he put together another really good year. More doubles, one extra home run. He did play in more games though, so the averages are slightly worse, but he did draw more walks. He was more patient. So overall, you can tell he's improving, and somehow he stole 12 bases while only getting caught 4 times. Interesting. He finishes with a 3.1 wins above replacement, and yeah, he's our right fielder until ever. That's the plan. Then we move on to Sheets, and I don't know, man. Between him or Sano, I don't know which of these guys had a more unexpectedly good season. But I mean, first of all, he improved a ton. Not much to the power, which I don't really quite understand, but plus 6, plus 7 to contact, plus 10 to discipline. This dude might be at the point where he's going to be our everyday first baseman next year, because he hit lefties. I think he actually had a higher batting average against lefties by the end of the year than he did against righties. So he's not even a liability against lefties. Look at this. 119 games, he hits 23 bombs, plenty of doubles, a couple triples mixed in there, 64 walks to only 83 strikeouts. The average was over 300. On base over 400. 932 OPS. 4.3 wins above replacement as not even an everyday player. I'm so happy with this season he put together after last season. He just disappointed last year, never turned it around to the point that I thought he should be playing at. And then look at what he does. I give him another chance to start against righties this year and he knocks it out of the park, literally. And then we come to Moncada. Another season, maybe even the happiest I am with anybody's season, and that's saying a lot considering what all we've talked about. But he goes up plus 10, plus 9 in contact, and then a lot more good improvements across the board. He's up to an 84, and what can you even say? Out of the 9 hole, the dude puts up a 339 average, wins the batting title, 420 on base, so he's just always on when the leadoff guys come back up for their second or third or fourth or fifth or 10th time up in a game. So that's probably why Trey Turner drove in so many runs. Didn't hit for a ton of power, but didn't have to. A lot of doubles, a lot of walks, cut down on the strikeouts a little bit. Out of nowhere, steals 18 bases while only getting caught 3 times. 920 OPS, and then a 6.3 wins above replacement. I'm so glad with this kind of season that he put together. I mean, not like he didn't have a good year for us last year, because he did, but there was still kind of that feeling that I didn't know how good he was going to be. I didn't know what his overall would look like. Didn't know if he would improve enough. But now at an 84, still only 27 years old with an A potential. We've got another season of him under contract. I wasn't so sure going into this season if I would be sticking with him after his contract was up, especially having Montgomery and Wes Kath coming up through the system. But now I feel like after next season, he's just like a must re-sign. But yeah, one of the biggest parts of our team this year out of the 9 hole. He just kept getting it done. Then we move over to our bench guys, or at least our bench guys against righties, because Pollock still started and will start against lefties. Regression hit him. He's the same kind of deal. I'm not planning on bringing him back. And for a lot of the year, it didn't look like he was going to end up having a good year, but he turned it around in the second half, pulled a Dylan Cease, ended up hitting 25 homers in only 78 games. Turns in a pretty solid average, a solid on base, good slugging. Finishes with a .6 WAR, but I think it didn't get up much higher than that just because of the first half of the season was so bad. But he definitely ended up still being a pretty solid piece to our team. I mean, he went from being somebody I thought about trading, I thought about bringing up Yermin to replace him, and he just ended up being a solid player in the end of it. And he'll still plan on having him start in right field against lefties in the playoffs. Then we come to Zach Collins, backup catcher, future starting catcher next year, because he just plays insanely above his ratings apparently. Improved a decent amount, not quite as much as I would have hoped, but man. How does he do this? Where does this come from? What rating are we looking at that makes his numbers that good? Only played in 35 games, got 119 at bats, hit for a decent amount of power, 9 home runs, walked 25 times while only striking out 21. He walked more than he struck out. 350 average, 465 on base. 465 on base. OPS was almost 1100. I'm so excited to see what he does as a starter next year, as a full-time starter. Like, do these numbers stay? Because now this is 2 seasons of him not getting a ton of playing time, but as a backup catcher, 2 seasons of him putting up those numbers. So if he plays like a full season, plays in 120 plus games, are these numbers going to be this good? Because if they are, best catcher in the league. Then we come to Leury. Still got him for another year, unfortunately, but I shouldn't even say unfortunately, because he had another good year. He would have been over 300 by the end of the year if he didn't go like 0 for 5 in the last game. But I really liked his role this year. I mean, he was just the utility replacement guy. If somebody wasn't going to play, throw Leury in there for a game. He played in a lot less games than last season. Still hit like the same amount of doubles though, which is crazy. 25 doubles in 75 games. Had a great time getting on base. Average just under 300, on base just over 350. Goes for a wins above replacement just under 1, but in less games. I mean, that's fine. That's good. He filled his role nicely. I just wish he would try and steal a little bit less. And then because Engel's not here, that's it. we don't get to talk about him. we don't get to round it off with him because there's no way I can see him. Yermin didn't put up any stats this year. Didn't even get his one at bat. But now that he is here, he probably will have some kind of contribution in the playoffs. I mean, he's not a bad bat, so he could be a decent pinch hitter. But yeah, I think that does it for the regular season stat recap. I would like to, if we could, see award winners, league leaders, but still just something you can't do in March to October, which is a shame because everything's transferred over to postseason stats and you can't go back and look at what happened in the regular season. So yep, that is where this one ends. I got carried away, but what do you expect at this point? You click on a regular season stat recap video and it's not at least a half an hour long, there's something wrong with it. So yeah, we will be getting started with the postseason in the next episode, taking on Tampa Bay. I'm not sure exactly how I want to do it, if I want to plan on no matter what having it be multiple episodes, maybe try and fit it all in one. I don't know. I'll just put the videos out and you just keep watching them. How about that? Sound like a deal? But yeah, guys, that's it for me in this one. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching if you made it to this point, and I will see you next time for the postseason.